Hey, what's up? I hope you already watched my video, my bond bait. I'll leave the link here. It's just my previous video, right? And this is gonna be a breakdown of the tracks. We can explore the project and see all the effects I used, how I chopped the samples, what drums I used. I'll talk about it, and maybe you can learn something out of seeing how I work. And of course, if there's something I missed, please let me know in the comments. Let's get into it. Let's go.
Do you recognize him?
No, who is it?
The man I loved. Did you kill him?
When someone's behind you on skis at 40 miles an hour trying to put a bullet in your back, then what?
So the very first thing for most of my beats, whenever I have a concept in mind, like, oh, this is a beat for this purpose, or I'm remixing this piece of music, like it's the sample. The sample is the very first thing that I have to solve, because everything is supposed to work, push the sample up, So in this case, the Bond theme, found it, I play with it, and you see, it all came down to 16 pads, 16 slices. But the only part I ended up using was this. Yes. Why? Because I figured out I wanted to add my own harmony, my own pianos, my own guitars. I wanted the sample to be the foundation, but nothing more. I was experimenting with this pink pad that you see here, but I couldn't really filter that guitar. I was trying to filter it, and then I said, nah, it's not gonna sound as good. There's so much noise, and it's hard to EQ. I would need to go to Ableton or something, use different software, not just filters. I didn't feel comfortable. So, and I love playing guitar. Oops, yeah. So, yeah, I did my own guitars. Now, the sample is like, it's full of sound, it's mastered, it's a big piece of noise, and it's a source of noise, melody, chords. There's so much going on, transients, percussions, it's loud. So the way I think about this is we need to make space. We need to kind of, filter things, use effects, EQs. We have to do as much as we can to make space for more stuff, like my own stuff. So in this case, for these samples, let me show you. It's -2 semitones. Everything is -2. So if you play the original bomb track, you're gonna notice like it's a different pitch. And I filter the lows. This is a very crazy setup. I had to experiment, but there's so much white noise, like brightness in the original sample, a room sound, like a reverb. To kill it, I had to use this filter envelope, depth at 70, the low filter with 11 cutoff. Try it out. What this does, if we don't use depth, oh sorry, I need to apply this to all the pads. Second. All this, right? This is how it sounds when we filter the lows only, right? It's a low pass filter and it's at 11, so it's very low. But if we go 70 and use specifically this filter envelope, kind of remove in a very like subtle way the highs, and I like that. That's 127. That's 0. It's interesting. It's for me it's smoother than using a high pass filter or a low pass filter. Like this gives me something that I just, after trial and error, this is the way it works. I love it. Now the sample, the inserts I use for the sample, insert effects, fuzz wah, but it's at very, a low mix level, air phaser, just to generate some sort of generate dynamics, parametric EQ, where I'm cutting low mids and boosting the high mids, because the sample, this is very dark, right? There's not much brightness, and my music was sounding a bit like lacking, and I didn't want to play the piano intensively or keys or anything, so I had to boost this a little bit. Sorry, here it is, right? 1.7 boosting 2K region, and yeah, filtering again the white noise, 10K with this high cut. It's very good. It's just it's too bright, this sample, if you listen to the original song, you're gonna hear like, so yeah, that wasn't good. Not for this song. I also have an FX. If you notice, there's lots of automation during the song, and so I was using this screen, automating the intro. Remember the section.
Do you recognize me?
Sample starts opening, in the intro, like opening to the point where it's fully open, and then the drums kick in. Okay, so now that I had a sample idea, and I was like, okay, this is my foundation, dun, 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 no more, I decided to add additional layers. I always have 2 keyboards, 2 electric pianos from the MPC Standalone plugin library, the electric actually. I always have them there, and I start figuring out the progressions and stuff. That takes some time, and figuring out if there's a space for more notes or more chords. Depends on what's being played on the sample. I ended up adding ambient piano from Hype. Sounds like this. I think this is what I was playing. I'm gonna play the part, where is it? Yeah, check this out. Oops. Notes, this type of notes, and they come with a little bit of, harmony in the background. I also have this second keyboard. It's It's also playing like, you know, in the higher octaves. But I have some notes there in octave number 4, they're like backing up. And it gives us this sense of epicness. Reminds me of, this melody specifically reminds me of GoldenEye from Nintendo 64. Playing that game was the time of my life. Okay. But yeah, those two keyboards, just for, I never play chords. Why? Because the Bond ref sample is very, very low, sustained, low MIDI, you know, dark. There's not much room for chords unless you play them in the higher octaves. But that I didn't like the sound of that, so that didn't go. Now you see two guitar tracks here. Sometimes I like chopping, you know, guitar chords, guitar notes, solos, whatever. I didn't do it this time. I recorded guitars myself. Let me show you. So we go to my audio tracks. These 4 audio tracks, 2 are guitars. One plays a lead, like this. Told you I can play that melody, and I just feel more comfortable playing it. It's clean, you know, electric guitar clean with air enhancer and air channel strip. The enhancer is the loudness, basically, loudness preset. It's very, very good. And air channel strip, it's a gate actually. It's helping us to remove noise in between notes and chords. That's how it usually works. This one, you know, when you record guitars or electric instruments, acoustic instruments, there's always this little noise in between notes or chords. So when you're just waiting for the next bar to start or whatever, use gate. Gate is amazing. This thing here. And try to make it work the least possible. You can see my settings here for my guitar. You can see the gate is actually pushing down the volume when nothing's being played, because that's the purpose. I can make a video on this. It's very good. Instead of, you know, having to chop stuff. That's the point. When we chop things, there's silence, like 100% silence in between the takes, and that feels good. Makes things clean. But when you record 8 bars and you're not playing for the 8 bars 100%, like you have there are pauses in between the chords or the notes, all that noise it's a mess. So gate, very good. The second track, let me mute this one. So there are 2 melodies, right? The dun, 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 and then this one. It's actually helping the sample. This one is like pushing the sample, because it's following exactly the same progression, you know, chromatic. I think it's A sharp, B, A sharp. That's the one thing. This one I'll show you later, because this is the dialogue, you know, this conversation between Bond and the Bond girl, like I had to chop and do stuff. I'll show you later. There was a guitar solo planned for the track, but then I realized there's no space. Well, I couldn't find the right space for a solo. It's like it sounds full. Normally, when you have a lead instrument, well, that's the way I do it. Like I make space for it, and sometimes you have to use an EQ or you have to filter the sample. You have to make space in those regions, you know, the high mid regions. Otherwise, the solo won't cut through the mix, and it's just gonna like drown in the mix, and it doesn't sound good. It sounds like a mess. I tried to do it here, but at the same time, I didn't want to touch what I already had, so I decided to not do the solo. Okay, so the guitars are done. We've done the sample. We've done the keyboards. Now I want to show you this. This track is a pad. The pad kicks in those sections where things go epic. I don't know if you could distinguish this sound. It's in the very last, in the loudest section of the song. See how it's rising? supposed to rise, and it's an 8-bar sequence here. You know, if you remember the ending of the song, 8-bar sequence, things get loud and intense, and that's my style. I just like things to get you know, and everybody playing hard. You know, I always imagine live instruments. I think that's my dream. You know, like trying to reenact, like to simulate that this is a live band performance. So things get loud and everybody goes crazy and everybody's playing solos, and the pad is there. Oh, oops. The pad is there to add tension, and it's a trick that I use a lot. You have to be careful what octaves you play. Check this out. This chord, it's a chord with 4 notes. From octave 4 to octave 6, the beginning of octave number 6. If you play this chord with notes in the lower octaves, it's not gonna go well. I was trying that because I was like, well, it sounds cool. But the problem is that the sample's there, remember? Like, you don't need anything else. If you already have this, if you already have the, you know, so much body in there, so there's no need for a pad that plays lower octaves. It's just the tension of it, the higher. And it's the same reason strings are used a lot in music and movies. Strings, those instruments also use I mean, generate tension, and it's good. The other instrument that does exactly the same thing, you might have heard in the last sections of the song, is this one. It's Mellotron. Oh, by the way, the pad. The pad is Hype, guys. Hype from the Standalone plugin library. So I'm not using samples or anything. This is Hype. The name of the preset is Dark String Answer. Very good. Dark String Answer, Standalone library. And Mellotron was also used, I was telling you, like, to add tension. We have a Mellotron with the preset Foreman strings. I fixed the presets. I mean, you'll never find, well, sometimes you do, but you'll never find a preset that, you know, like exactly giving you what you need. So the best thing you can do is find a preset you like and then start adjusting little things like removing this, adding that, making a little bit of this louder, the EQs, removing the reverb and delay because it's too spacey and you want to add your own reverb, your own delay, many things. I did that for both because these are big sounds and you have to be careful. So Mellotron is doing this in the song. It's GoldenEye, man. Like, I just think of GoldenEye whenever I hear the sounds. But yeah, it's the last section of the song. I had to find the perfect spot for that, like EQ it and boost it in a way that cuts through and it makes a difference. If a sound is not making a difference and doesn't cut through the mix, if you remove it, if you go here and just remove the sound and it's you couldn't even hear the difference, then it's not needed. You know, it's not well EQ'd, I would say, or the dynamics of this sound. Something's wrong. You have to fix it. So yeah, if we play this part, let me play everything. Check this out. Sorry. Without the Mellotron. Now with. Hope you could hear it like kicking in. That was the point. In this, these plugins just have a little bit of stereo width. That's something I noticed with Hype, all the standalone instruments. Like sometimes you have to add stereo stuff. I mean, you can add. Remember my Sense video where I show you how to, you know, add reverb, delay to create this room. sensation. Like, well, it's not enough for stereo information sometimes. Like, you need more. You need things to pan left and right, because in the middle you have something very particular, like a guitar, a lead, or something, that you want to preserve in the middle. So yeah, this is the type of sound Mellotrons pads with air stereo width. I find the best preset I can. In this case, I found it with the add width to mono signal, very good. And then you can tune it, make it sound the way it feels right, according to what you already have in your mix. I did that last. It's one of the last things you have to do. And the pumper. For pads and Mellotron, pumper, just so these sounds sustain long sounds sometimes need dynamics. You cannot leave them straight 100% full on volume, because it won't sound good. It's too much. It's like it's taking too much space. And in my experience, I like adding pumpers to pads and Mellotron. So yeah, that's it. Okay, and now we just have the drums and bass and the effects track. The bass, there's nothing crazy about the bass. The plugin, the standalone plugin called Bassline that comes with MPC. I love it and I use it all the time. It's very good. The critical things that you have to take in consideration whenever you add bass, as at least for me, that's mother ducker for the kick to cut through the the attack of the bass. You don't want them to be in conflict. Air tube drive for a little bit of distortion. Parametric EQ. This one is for us to boost the high mids. Sometimes it sounds too dark, so boosting the high mids and lowering the lows, because the bass can get a bit overwhelming. So something I do, for example here, 176 hertz, 0.67 4Q, and minus 3.1 dB in that area. It's a shelf type of EQ. It's like just pushing down that side, because all together with the kick, and considering that it's already mastered, we added a limiter at the very end of it's in the master track, so everything's being pushed up, and we have the kick and bass kind of being compressed at a slow rate. So we need this to be not as strong. It's one of the hardest things to do, balancing bass, kick, and the rest of the elements. But yeah, I do that. And the air compressor is there just to kind of 50% parallel compression. I want to show you how it looks like. I'm taking around 4 dB here, so I'm adding it back. I'm preserving the attack, so attack is 59 milliseconds. It's not it's not a big difference, but it matters. Sometimes it's cutting those big sustained notes, making it more punchy. The big transient ignored by the compressor, and then the compressor starts acting, pushing down the level, and that's how you get dynamic bass. And yeah, I think that's the bass. One important parameter here is always amplitude decay. The screen is too bright, but you'll see it in the oscillators, filters, and envelopes screens of the plugin. Go for the envelope section in this area, and you're gonna see it. Amplitude decay. Mine is at 77%. Don't have it at 100. Don't have that at 100%, because you're gonna just get sausages. It depends on the music, genre or whatever, but 77% works for me because this is dynamic bass. I'm trying to simulate a punchy bass player, right? Okay, that's bass. And now we just have the drums and the effects. These are, I always divided in three different tracks: kick and snare, hi-hats, percussions. Man, it's all about selecting the samples one by one, tuning them, filtering them. It's heavy work. Sometimes the end result is not as great. Layering sounds. I think I'll do a tutorial on this, but it's always the same process. You know, you select sound by sound. If you like it, it stays. If it's not good, it goes. And then you have to this new window here, guys. It's amazing. Where is it? Oops. Samples. Yes, this section. You know, after master in the program edit, we have samples, and then you can see the key of drum hits. You know, hats, snares, claps, kicks, everything. So you have to figure out what's the chord progression and then the key of the song, the different sections of the song, because this is a chromatic song. Like dun dun dun. It's not moving in a regular. It's moving in semitones. So you have to be careful. You have to know music theory in order to figure out what's the best tuning, you know, for that kick, because you cannot let that being conflict clash with any of the other notes. So yeah, it's a long process, but it pays off. I feel like it sounds. Here's the way I wanted it to sound. And well, in terms of effects, the mother ducker input, because the kicks are triggering all the sidechains in the song. But parametric EQ, sometimes the snare, the high mids of the snare can get very loud. So look, in 1.65 kilohertz, I have minus 6.2 dB. I just needed to do that because, yeah, the snare can be too harsh, too present. Once you start boosting things up, you know, level, like pushing up the volume, the gain, with the limiter in the master track, like the snare starts falling apart. So that's very important. Parametric EQ in the drum, kick and snare. Then I have my hats. My hats have no effects. My hats, I just want them as clean as possible. And I select the samples from, you know, Splice, good libraries. The library we get with the MPC, it's amazing. So good sounds. Try to find good hats, because those ones, yeah, it's hard to fix them. You cannot fix that. Like it's just too complicated, and it doesn't pay off. So good sounds. Yeah. And percussions, it's up to you. I go Splice and find the sounds that feel right. I like that. So it was I think there was a sample, long sample, as you can see, but I had to chop it. I just used 3 hits, and then I did my own performance. Is the groove, you know, we have to preserve the groove. I'm using 51 swing, by the way, 51 swing, and I was quantizing at 66. This should be 66 strength. Some things I had to do unquantized, but most of the time correction was active, and I was just fixing the velocity as it feels right. There's a cowbell. Oh. Maybe you'll find it in some sections of the song. I just felt like, wow, it feels like cowbell, you know. So yeah, cowbell, and I think I use 16 level tune to play with the notes and make it, you know, go up and down in tune in some of the sections. So you're gonna hear it. It sounds like you have 3 cowbells actually, but it's just one. And this sound, it's one of my favorite sounds of the J Dilla sample pack on Splice. It's like a rim shot, but it sounds so natural. I love it. Whenever I'm figuring out sounds and I still don't want to define the drum hits, the drum samples, I use this just to, you know, get the feel of the groove. And the effects, you know, it's the last track. Show you everything here, but the effects are basically this. Bunch of you know, white noise, transition, stuff that when you add it to your songs, it makes a difference because it's like takes you by surprise. Like, oh, what was that? It elevates the song to a different level. It's very good, but you have to be subtle. Check this out. This program that's called FX that contains all the sounds, it's at minus 20.7 dB. And I send it to a submix here where in the submix it's been filtered. I'm taking all the lows. It's mostly for white noise, the highs, high mids and high frequencies. You can see here 340 hertz HP filter, minus 5.3 dBs in the, excuse me, the 1.3K region, and everything that's left is high frequencies because there's no space for it. I don't want it to, you know, be in conflict with the sample. And well, the last thing I want to show you is the master track. I use air stereo width to control some sounds. You know, sometimes you mess up and the stereo of some of those instruments is too strong, too much stereo, right? And the beat starts losing groove. So in air stereo width, I made the width 92, and then I reduced the width of the highs and the lows as it felt right. I normally have Insight from Isotope. It's a plugin that allows me to see the stereo image, one of those analyzers. It's amazing. You should have it on your screen because as I was having that on my screen, I could see what was going on, and I decided to reduce width. You know, this is reducing. It's not generating anything. It's in the master track. And then I have Pad Filter Saturn. This is a plugin that generates saturation. If I remove it, the sound would be still the same, but my high mids and my high mids and highs wouldn't be as strong. And Air Limiter, the last plugin here, that 6.7 gain, ceiling 0.7 dB, look ahead 2.5 milliseconds, release 91.4 milliseconds, and mono, everything's mono below 110 hertz. I normally do that for all my songs. You know, that's a very common setup. Let me know if you wanna if you want me to explain something in depth. This was a very brief, you know, breakdown of what's happening in all my tracks. Of course, I have a dialogue track that I use. It looks like this, you know, editing lots of sound. For example, this is the dialogue.
Then, when this mission is over, I will kill you.
It's just audio tracks. You have to chop in here, add fades, the gates, like I show you with my guitars, exactly the same thing. Add a stereo with the return tracks, and air channel strip as a noise gate. I think I already showed you that, but yeah, there's so much noise in that sample. The conversation, you know, between Bond and the girl is like, you can hear the shh constantly. Sometimes you hear it. Like what we have here in the MPC is good, but stuff like that requires surgical approach. But it's still good. It helped me a lot. Check the intro, you know. In the intro, I had to chop the dialogue this way using the touchscreen. It was fun. It felt like a DAW. I didn't really struggle. It was good. Check this out.
Do you recognize him?
No, who is it?
It's there. You can see, you know, these lines are all chops. and there are fades. A little fade makes a difference because you want to avoid clipping, distortion and all that stuff, white noise. So yeah, it's all there, and that goes straight to the master track. It's nothing else there. Volume is minus 2.8, and there's a bit of EQing to make sure it's not too low MIDI. But man, yeah, let me know if you like this breakdown. Maybe I went too fast, but yeah, now that I see everything that's done, yeah, put some work on this. But yeah, let me know. I can go in depth with any of these concepts and show you, and how I did it. And if I missed something, let me know. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Cheers.